Welcome to Mind Set in Stone podcasts, where we dive deep into the most compelling books on the shelf. Join hosts Dave and Poppy as they uncover the stories, themes, and ideas that shape our understanding and inspire curiosity. Get ready to explore the big ideas that leave a lasting impact. Let's get started.
Ever heard that story about the nuclear plant, on the brink of meltdown?
Can't say I have.
Millions at stake, top engineers baffled, the whole 9 yards.
Okay, I'm intrigued.
So this consultant strolls in, observes for a day, and what does he do? Takes a black marker, makes a single X on a dial, problem solved. Just like that.
Wow, talk about laser focus.
Yeah.
Finding that one critical thing amidst all the noise. That's what we're all striving for, right?
Exactly. Especially these days, right? We're bombarded with information. To do is a mile long and never enough time. It can feel like we have a million tabs open in our brains all at once.
Oh, tell me about it. That constant feeling of overwhelm is something I think a lot of people can relate to.
It's practically the modern condition, isn't it?
It really is.
And that's why we wanted to do this deep dive into Brian Tracy's focal point with you today. It's all about cutting through the clutter and finding that X, that crucial element, for a more productive and ultimately more fulfilling life.
It's not just about doing more, right?
Yeah, not at all. It's about doing less, but making those actions count.
Smart.
So with this deep dive, our mission, if you will, is to really distill those key insights from Focal Point so you can walk away with a roadmap for unlocking your potential and making a real impact.
I like it. Roadmap to success. So where do we begin?
Well, right off the bat, Tracy hits us with a powerful idea. Meaningful, lasting change doesn't just happen overnight. It's a process fueled by desire, a firm decision, and unwavering discipline, along with that good old-fashioned determination. And there's this quote from Orson Swett Marden that really stuck with me. Most people fritter away their lives by trying to do too many things at once.
It's about focus, right? Channeling your energy, your efforts into one specific area.
Precisely. Now, to show us this in action, the book shares a story about an insurance executive, someone who was part of Tracy's advanced coaching and mentoring program.
Okay, let's hear it.
So this guy was pulling in a six-figure income, the picture of success.
Right, sounds pretty good so far.
But here's the catch. He was practically living at the office, working 60, 70 hours a week, no vacation in years.
Oh, sounds like a classic case of burnout waiting to happen.
And that's exactly where he was, feeling overwhelmed, trapped in this cycle of busyness without really moving forward. So how does he start to turn things around using the Focal Point process?
I'm all ears.
First, he took a long, hard look at his life, both professionally and personally. And he made this detailed inventory of everything he was doing, analyzing which tasks, which clients were actually bringing in the most value, the most revenue.
So he had to really get honest with himself about where his efforts were actually paying off.
But then he went a step further and identified all the things that were sucking up his time without contributing much at all.
Like those little tasks that feel important but really aren't moving the needle.
Exactly, those time wasters that we all have. And this is where he applied a powerful concept called zero-based thinking. The question he asked himself for every single item on his list was this: knowing what I know now, if I weren't currently doing this, would I choose to start it up again today?
Thought-provoking. I bet that one question can reveal a lot about our priorities.
He realizes a huge chunk of his day was filled with activities he just sort of accumulated over time out of habit, or maybe a sense of obligation, but they weren't really aligned with his goals, with what he truly wanted to achieve.
So he was essentially drowning in low-priority tasks that weren't really serving him.
Exactly. And that realization was a game changer for him. He then sat down and set really specific goals for himself, not just for work, but for all areas of his life: family, health, finances. And the results were pretty remarkable.
Okay, I'm eager to hear how this unfolds.
In a matter of months, he managed to cut his work week down to a consistent 5 days. He strategically narrowed his focus to his top 20% of clients, those who were generating the bulk of his revenue, and dedicated more time and energy to nurturing those relationships.
A classic application of the 80-20 rule, right? Focusing on the vital few.
Right. And with all that reclaimed time, guess what? He started taking those weekend trips he'd been missing out on, spending quality time with his family. Within 6 months, he was taking a full week off every month, completely dedicated to his personal life.
Wow, that's a serious shift. So he's working less, spending more time with his family, and I'm guessing his income took a hit.
Actually, the opposite happened. Within a year, his income had increased by over 300%.
Seriously? That's incredible.
It just goes to show that by eliminating the things that weren't truly important and focusing laser-like on those high-value activities, he was able to achieve significantly more in less time.
It's a powerful testament to the idea that doing less can actually lead to greater results.
And Focal Point makes a bold claim based on stories like this, suggesting that it's entirely possible to double your income and double your time off by diligently applying these principles.
Now that's a promise worth exploring. So how do we actually double our value in the first place? Where do we even begin?
Well, the book provides a pretty clear path for doing just that. It all boils down to consistently dedicating yourself to those top 20% of activities, the ones that generate the most value, the most impact, and ruthlessly cutting back on or eliminating the rest.
It makes sense, but I can see how that would take some serious discipline. It's so easy to get caught up in the day-to-day, to get distracted by all the urgent but ultimately less important things that keep popping up.
Right? It requires a conscious effort to constantly evaluate what you're doing and to steer yourself back towards those high-value activities.
And what's the payoff for all this effort, for making that shift?
Well, first and foremost, you become more productive. Your work becomes more impactful, and that, in turn, often leads to greater respect from your colleagues and potentially even higher compensation. And of course, it creates that space for more time off for those things that truly matter outside of work.
It sounds like a win-win situation. And speaking of taking ownership, the book really stresses the importance of accepting complete responsibility for your life. How does that tie into everything we've been talking about?
It's foundational. The idea is that by taking full ownership of your situation, you empower yourself to change it. You stop making excuses, you stop blaming external factors or other people, you refuse to get caught up in what-ifs and if-onlys.
So it's about focusing on what you can control.
Exactly. And this shift in perspective, this focus on taking responsibility, it leads to a feeling of power, of control, which in turn boosts your confidence and self-esteem.
It makes sense. The alternative, blaming others or making excuses, it just leaves you feeling powerless.
Right, like a victim of circumstance. And that's the opposite of what we're aiming for here. Now, another concept that stood out to me was the idea of the efficiency curve. Can you explain that one a bit?
Sure. The efficiency curve is basically a way of visualizing how our productivity changes over time as we learn a new skill or take on a new task. At first, when we're starting out, we're not very efficient. There's a learning curve, right? We're slow, we make mistakes.
I've definitely been there.
We all have. But if we stick with it, if we keep practicing, our efficiency gradually increases. We become more skilled, faster, we produce better results in less time.
It's like learning to play an instrument. At first, it's all fumbling and frustration, but with consistent practice, you eventually start to make music.
Exactly. And the key takeaway here is that we need to push through that initial dip in the curve, that period of lower efficiency, to reach that point of higher productivity.
And to make time for those high-value activities, we need to actively cut back on the low-value ones.
And that's where that zero-based thinking comes back into play. Regularly ask yourself, if I wasn't already doing this, would I start it up again knowing what I know now? Apply that to your tasks, your relationships, your commitments, even how you spend your leisure time. It's a great way to simplify and streamline.
Decluttering your life, both internally and externally. I like it. Okay, so we've talked about focus, about responsibility, about efficiency. Now let's talk about leverage. The book mentions this as being a key part of what it calls the Grand Slam formula. You break down what leverage means in this context.
Leverage is all about maximizing the results you achieve by strategically using resources beyond your own direct efforts. It's like that famous Archimedes quote, "Give me a lever long enough and a place to stand and I can move the world." The same principle applies to your work, to your life.
So it's about working smarter, not harder.
Exactly. So how do we create this leverage? Well, the first and perhaps most powerful form of leverage is other people's knowledge. Think about it. A single insightful idea you get from a book, a mentor, a podcast like this one can potentially save you countless hours of trial and error. It can save you money. It can open up new possibilities.
It's like that saying, stand on the shoulders of giants.
Exactly. Now, another thing the book highlights is the shocking amount of time we waste during our workday. It suggests that up to 50% of the average person's time at work is actually wasted on things that don't contribute to their core responsibilities.
Like socializing, personal calls, scrolling through social media, things like that.
Precisely. And all that soft time, as the book calls it, it can really eat into the hard time, the time we need to dedicate to our most important tasks, and lead to that feeling of constantly being busy but not actually productive.
And it creates a ripple effect, right? It spills over into our personal lives, forces us to work late, miss out on time with our families.
Absolutely. The book paints a vivid picture of this with the story of that little girl asking her dad why he has to bring work home because he couldn't finish it at the office. It's a stark reminder of the consequences of inefficiency. And the point is, highly productive people aren't necessarily working significantly more hours. They've just learned to be more effective with the time they do have.
It's about working smarter, not harder. Okay, so how do we actually implement this? The book provides a 6-step process for potentially doubling your income and your time off. Let's walk through those steps.
Sure. The first step is to really get clear on those vital few tasks that generate the most value in your work. It requires careful thought. It requires communication with your boss, with your colleagues, to really understand where your efforts make the biggest difference.
Okay, so step 1 is all about identifying those high-impact tasks. What about step 2?
Step 2 is about those tasks that suck up a lot of time but don't actually contribute much to your overall goals. The advice is to delegate them if possible, to eliminate them entirely if they're not truly necessary, or to consider outsourcing them to free up your time for those higher value activities.
So streamline, delegate, eliminate. Got it.
And step 3 brings us back to that grand slam formula you mentioned earlier. What are the 4 elements again?
It's simplify, leverage, accelerate, and multiply. We've already talked about simplification and leverage. Accelerate refers to working with a sense of urgency, a sense of purpose, to really focus and get things done. Multiply is about finding ways to amplify your impact through the efforts of others, through teamwork, collaboration, delegation.
It's about leveraging your strengths and surrounding yourself with a capable team.
Exactly. Steps 4 and 5 are all about creating more time for yourself, for the things that truly matter outside of work.
Step 4 is about making a commitment to take at least one full day off every week, a day where you completely disconnect from work, from email, from all of it. It's about allowing your mind and body to truly rest and recharge.
It's blissful.
It is. And step 5 builds on this by encouraging you to gradually expand your time off. Start with full weekends, then maybe 3-day weekends, and eventually longer, more rejuvenating vacations.
Making time for yourself a priority. I love it. What about the final step?
Step 6 is all about continuous improvement. It's about constantly asking yourself probing questions, challenging your assumptions, seeking out new and better ways of doing things. The book even provides 5 specific questions you can use to spark this kind of critical thinking, such as, what if one of my key assumptions turned out to be wrong? And could I achieve this result in a more efficient way?
It's about staying curious, staying flexible, and always being willing to learn and adapt. Now, a concept that's woven throughout all of this is the importance of clarity.
Clarity is absolutely essential for high performance and productivity. You need to have a clear understanding of what you want to achieve, the steps you need to take to get there, and a willingness to adapt your approach along the way. As the Menninger Institute puts it, flexibility is the single most important quality for success in the 21st century. And that really speaks to the need to embrace change, to be open to new information, and to constantly evaluate whether you're on the right track.
It's about being agile, about being able to pivot when necessary.
Exactly. It also means being able to detach your ego from your methods, focusing on what actually works rather than getting hung up on being right.
It's about results, not ego. So, with that in mind, let's talk about goal setting. What are the key characteristics of an effective goal, according to the book?
Effective goals are specific and measurable. You need to be able to define exactly what you want and how you'll know when you've achieved it. They also need to be believable and achievable for you. They should be written down to solidify your commitment, and they need to be time-bound, with a clear deadline to create a sense of urgency.
So specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound. The SMART goals framework. And once you have those well-defined goals, how do you prioritize the mountain of work that often comes with them?
Focal Point recommends making a comprehensive list of everything you need to do and then rigorously applying the 80-20 rule. Focus your energy on the 20% of activities that will contribute the most to achieving your goals, those high-impact tasks that move the needle. The importance of a task is directly related to the potential consequences of doing it or not doing it.
It's about separating the vital few from the trivial many.
Exactly. And this leads us to that classic distinction between urgent tasks and important tasks. Urgent tasks demand our attention immediately, like that ringing phone or that urgent email, but they might not actually be crucial for achieving our long-term goals. Important tasks, on the other hand, are those that have a significant impact on our overall objectives, even if they don't have an immediate deadline.
So we need to be careful not to get so caught up in the urgent that we neglect the important.
Absolutely.
It's about making conscious choices about where you spend your time and energy. Now, to help us stay focused on what truly matters, the book suggests we regularly ask ourselves 3 key questions. What are they?
The first question is, what are my absolute highest value activities? The second is, why am I on the payroll? This forces you to think about your core responsibilities and your measurable contributions to the organization. And the third question, which the book recommends asking yourself almost hourly, is, what is the single most valuable use of my time right now?
That hourly check-in seems like a great way to keep yourself on track and to prevent those distractions from taking over. And once you've identified that most valuable task for that moment, what then?
Then it's about developing the discipline to start working on it immediately and to maintain focus until it's complete. This focused approach, according to the book, can reduce the time it takes to complete a task by as much as 80%.
Wow, that's a significant time saving. And beyond that focused approach, the book also offers some more general strategies for increasing productivity, right?
Yes, it suggests cultivating a sense of urgency in your work, learning to work faster and more efficiently, consistently prioritizing those high-value activities, and dedicating time to improving your skills in the areas that are most critical for your success. It also suggests that even a small increase in your working hours can make a big difference. Maybe starting a bit earlier or staying a bit later a few days a week can give you a significant boost in productivity without requiring a major lifestyle change. And finally, it recommends creating a personal checklist of time management principles and reviewing it regularly to reinforce those habits.
So it's about creating a system for yourself that helps you stay on track.
Exactly. Now, shifting gears a bit, let's talk about simplifying your life. The book introduces something called Meyer's Law. What's that all about?
Yeah, what is Meyer's Law and why should we care?
Meyer's Law basically states that it is a simple task to make things complex, but a complex task to make them simple. It highlights this often overlooked truth that simplifying things actually takes effort, intentionality. It doesn't just happen by accident.
So we need to be proactive about simplifying. Okay, I'm starting to see the importance of this.
And the book illustrates this beautifully with the concept of a complexity factor. The idea is that the level of complexity in a task doesn't increase linearly with each added step, but exponentially. So a one-step task has a complexity factor of 1. A two-step task has a complexity factor of 4. A three-step task, 9, and so on.
So the potential for things to go wrong, for delays, for miscommunication, it grows exponentially as we add more steps and more people.
Precisely. And Focal Point provides some really compelling examples of how simplifying complex processes can lead to dramatic improvements. There is a story about a life insurance company, for instance, where the initial approval process was this incredibly lengthy ordeal involving 22 different individuals and taking 6 weeks to complete.
I can't even imagine the amount of paperwork involved in that.
It was a nightmare. But when they really analyzed the process, they realized that the actual hands-on work time was less than an hour. So by streamlining the process, by cutting out unnecessary steps and handoffs, they were able to significantly reduce the turnaround time.
I bet that made everyone's lives a lot easier.
Oh, absolutely. And the book also mentions how Citibank simplified their mortgage approval process, cutting it down from 6 weeks to just 24 hours, which led to a huge surge in their mortgage business.
Those are some impressive results. The book lays out the 7 R's of simplification. Can you walk us through those?
Sure. The first R is rethinking. When you're faced with a complex situation or something that just feels stuck, stop and ask yourself, could there be a better, simpler way to approach this?
So take a step back and challenge your assumption.
Exactly. The second R is reevaluating. When new information comes to light, take the time to reassess your current approach based on that new reality. The third R is rearranging. Look for ways to change the sequence of activities in a process to make it more efficient.
Okay, so far we have rethinking, reevaluating, and rearranging. What are the other 4 R's?
The fourth R is reducing. This is about actively eliminating unnecessary steps, tasks, people, rules, anything that's adding complexity without adding value. The fifth R is re-engineering. Look for ways to fundamentally simplify complex tasks, to redesign them from the ground up to be faster and more efficient.
It's about thinking outside the box, about not being afraid to challenge the status quo.
Exactly. The sixth R is reinventing. This is about taking a step back maybe every 6 months or so and reevaluating your work, your processes, and even yourself using that zero-based thinking approach.
So it's about continuous improvement, about always striving to do things better.
Precisely. And the final R is refusing. This is about learning to say no to commitments and activities that don't align with your goals or your values. It's about protecting your time and energy for the things that truly matter.
It's about setting boundaries. Okay, those 7 R's are incredibly helpful. They provide a practical framework for tackling complexity in all areas of our lives. Now, let's move on to the importance of setting clear goals, defining your values, and creating a vision for your life.
This is where it all comes together. The book stresses that having a clear understanding of your values, what's truly important to you, and a compelling vision for your future is essential for setting effective goals and living a more meaningful life. It introduces the concept of idealization, which is essentially taking the time to reflect on the happiest and most productive periods in your life to understand what contributed to those positive experiences so you can try to recreate them.
So it's about looking back to inform your path forward.
Exactly. And Focal Point shares a really powerful story to illustrate the transformative power of this kind of self-awareness. It's about a guy who attended one of Brian Tracy's seminars. He was going through a really tough time, overweight, jobless, recently divorced, in debt, and just incredibly negative about life in general.
So he was really struggling.
He was at a low point, but during the seminar, he had this epiphany. He realized that while he deeply desired happiness and success, his own negative thinking and self-destructive behaviors were preventing him from achieving those things. And within a year, he had completely turned his life around. He found a fulfilling job, he lost weight, he got remarried, and he developed a much more positive outlook on life.
It's amazing how a shift in mindset can create such a dramatic change in circumstances.
It really is, and this story highlights the fundamental principle of causality, the idea that our actions and our thoughts have consequences. To achieve the results we want in life, we need to understand the causes that lead to those results, and then align our actions and our thinking accordingly.
So it's not about luck or chance, but about making conscious choices that lead to the outcomes we desire.
Exactly. And a key component of this is adopting an optimistic mindset. The book presents optimism not just as a feel-good emotion, but as a powerful predictor of success in all areas of life: happiness, health, wealth, even longevity.
So optimism is more than just a sunny disposition. It's a key ingredient for success.
Absolutely. And it's something we can cultivate, just like we cultivate physical fitness. It's about actively engaging in positive thinking and mental exercises. Another important trait the book highlights is future orientation, having a clear and compelling vision for the future.
That's a hallmark of great leaders, isn't it?
It is. Leaders are able to see a better future, and they inspire others by articulating that vision and working towards it. And when it comes to turning those visions into reality, the book emphasizes the power of writing down your goals. They cite a statistic that only about 3% of adults actually write down their goals, which is pretty incredible when you consider how much it can increase your chances of success.
It's like making a contract with yourself, a tangible commitment to achieving those goals. And what are the key elements of an effective written goal?
They should be clear, specific, and measurable. You need to define exactly what you want and how you'll track your progress. They should also have deadlines, and they should be broken down into smaller, actionable steps.
So it's about making those big goals more manageable by breaking them down into smaller, more achievable chunks.
Precisely. Now, shifting gears a bit, let's talk about action. The next section of the book focuses on the importance of being results-oriented, solution-focused, and committed to lifelong learning. It stresses the need to adopt what it calls a result orientation, which is basically about constantly focusing on the desired outcomes, creating plans, setting priorities based on those outcomes, and tracking your progress. As the saying goes, what gets measured gets done. The book also poses a really powerful question. What is the one thing that I, and only I, can do that, if done well, would make a real difference to my company?
That question really forces you to think about your unique contribution to the team, to the organization.
Absolutely. And when problems inevitably arise, as they always do, the book encourages us to adopt a solution orientation. This means focusing on what can be done to solve the problem rather than dwelling on who's to blame or getting bogged down in the details of the issue itself. And this proactive approach actually strengthens our problem-solving abilities and enhances our creativity. The book also emphasizes the importance of continuous growth and development, what it calls a growth orientation.
So it's not enough to just be good at what you do. You need to constantly be striving to improve, to learn new things, to expand your skill set.
Precisely. And this commitment to lifelong learning has a direct impact on our earning potential. The book recommends investing at least 3% of your income back into yourself for learning and development, whether that's through books, courses, seminars, or anything else that helps you grow.
It's about investing in your most valuable asset, your own mind.
Exactly. And the book tells a great story about a dentist who invested in learning a new cosmetic dentistry technique. This new skill allowed him to significantly increase his income and eventually led to him retiring early as a multimillionaire.
That's a powerful example of how investing in yourself can pay off in a big way. Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground here. Focus, responsibility, efficiency, leverage, clarity, goal setting, simplification, the importance of continuous learning and growth. What are some of the key takeaways we can apply to our lives right now?
Well, I think one of the most important takeaways is the power of focus. We live in a world of distractions, and it's so easy to get pulled in a million different directions. But by consciously choosing to focus our time and energy on those vital few activities that truly matter, we can achieve significantly more in all areas of our lives. Another key takeaway is the importance of accepting responsibility for our circumstances. When we stop making excuses and blaming others, we empower ourselves to create the change we want to see.
And that ties into the idea of being solution-oriented. Instead of getting bogged down in problems, we should focus on finding solutions.
Exactly. And we should always be looking for ways to simplify our lives, to eliminate the unnecessary clutter and complexity that drains our time and energy. Finally, we should never stop learning and growing. The world is constantly changing, and we need to be adaptable and embrace new knowledge and skills to stay ahead of the curve. The book emphasizes the importance of developing key attitudes and habits that support success. It talks about the power of cultivating a sense of urgency in your work, of prioritizing those high-value activities, and of becoming really good at the most important skills you need to succeed. And it reminds us that you become what you think about most of the time, so it's important to consciously focus our thoughts on the outcomes we desire.
So it's about creating a positive mindset that supports our goals.
Exactly. And it's about taking consistent action, about developing those daily habits that move us closer to what we want to achieve. The book introduces the concept of the sigmoid curve, which is basically a way of visualizing the life cycle of different areas of our lives. It encourages us to step back and assess where different aspects of our work and our personal lives fall on this curve. Are they in a phase of learning and growth, or are they starting to decline? And based on that assessment, we can then make strategic decisions about where to focus our energy and effort.
It's about being proactive and making conscious choices about how we spend our time.
Precisely. And it's about having a clear understanding of what we're trying to achieve, both in our work and in our personal lives. The book quotes Peter Drucker, who said, "Planning for tomorrow means sloughing off yesterday." It encourages us to regularly ask ourselves, what activities should I reduce, discontinue, or avoid altogether? And it prompts us to think about what new possibilities might open up if we had different skills and knowledge.
It's about being open to new opportunities and not being afraid to let go of the things that are no longer serving us. Now, before we wrap up, I want to touch on one more important concept from the book, and that's the importance of understanding and living in alignment with our core values.
This is crucial. The book emphasizes that true happiness and fulfillment come from living a life that's consistent with our values. These values are the guiding principles that shape our decisions, our relationships, and ultimately our sense of purpose. The book provides a great example of a company that was developing a new telecommunications division. By clearly defining their core values at the outset, they were able to use those values as a framework to guide their discussions, their decision-making, and their overall strategy, which ultimately led to their success.
So it's about having that North Star, that guiding principle that helps us stay on track.
Exactly. And it's something we should all take the time to reflect on. What are our core values? What do we stand for? And are our actions and decisions truly aligned with those values?
It's about living with integrity, about being true to ourselves. So to wrap up this deep dive into Focal Point, I think the key message is that we have a lot more control over our lives than we often realize. By consciously choosing to focus our time and energy on the things that truly matter, By adopting a solution-oriented mindset, by simplifying our lives, by committing to continuous learning and growth, and by living in alignment with our values, we can create a more fulfilling and meaningful life, both professionally and personally.
Well said. It's about taking ownership, making conscious choices, and focusing on what truly matters.
And for you, our listener, I want to leave you with this question. What is that one black X you could place on your current activities? That one change that would make the biggest positive impact in your life right now? What is it? And what will you do about it? If you found these insights valuable, we encourage you to explore Brian Tracy's work further and to continue on this journey of focused achievement and a simplified life.
It's a journey worth taking. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.
And until next time, keep striving for that focal point.
We hope you're leaving with fresh insights and a spark of inspiration. Remember to subscribe, leave a review, and check back for more episodes as we dive into new worlds of thought, one book at a time. Until then, keep your mind set in stone and your curiosity open. This has been a Big L Riz Media podcast, where big ideas meet lasting impressions.